Explain your roles with the choir and especially what that means for you when the choir goes on tour.
We kind of have different roles. As the producer of the choir, I'm kind of producing, products.
As the production manager for the choir on tour, it's my job to get the show into the venue, set up, do the show, and back out of the venue in a timely and cost-effective manner so that then we can move on to the next city.
In 19 hours or less.
Yes, in 19 hours or less. And so that includes sound, lights, staging, risers, instruments, anything that relates to the actual performance. That's what I'm responsible for.
Bob's viewers are the audience that's there, that's watching it, but we have tons of people that are out in the world and across the United States that kind of want to follow the choir. In between the concerts, there's a lot of things that the choir will do. We kind of let them know about that. And then if we do any special recordings, which we will this tour, we'll record one of the concerts that we'll use later on for a program. And so I'm hiring that crew, which is different from the crew that Bob employs, that'll have cameramen and audio engineers and a lighting truck and a production truck so that we can record the concert and the event to be able to post it later on for later use.
How is that different on tour than it is when the choir is here? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like the difference between living at your home and then living out of a suitcase. We have to take everything that we use or make arrangements for it.
The choir has its signature sound even though we're not in one of its traditional venues. And we have spared no little expense trying to make that happen with acoustic monitoring, lighting, everything else that we take with us. It's more than a traditional rock and roll equipment package. So because we try to create that environment for the choir so that they can perform their very best. We do 2 advances when we're prepping for a tour. We go out 2 years in advance and visit potential sites. And then the choir comes back and makes a decision and puts a tour together. And once all of the details are finalized, about 3 months before the actual tour, we go out and do a second advance, nail down all the details, make sure that everyone understands exactly what's happening. And then the tour, we roll in the morning of, we set up, we sound check, we do a concert, and we're gone that night. Or in the case of an arena, it's usually early the next morning. We have to, in advance, know exactly where tickets are being sold so that we make sure we cover them with audio. And a lot of people don't recognize that we draw a line in the arena and say, okay, this is the size of the seating area. And then ticket sales all of a sudden exceed the available capacity, and someone makes a decision that, no, we're going to expand the seating area. If that information doesn't get to us, then those people are basically sitting in acoustic darkness. They don't get to hear the show the way they should. And so you've got to constantly be on top of all of the details of not only the technical equipment, but house management and ushering and everything else, because everything that happens inside that room has a ripple effect. Well, a typical day on tour begins at 7 a.m. That's crew call in the arena. We have our crew, the choir travels with a crew of 5, and then we rent a local crew of production people and stage hands that probably adds another 25 or 30 people to that crew, depending upon the venue. And the first thing we have to do is get all of the lighting and sound equipment unloaded out of trucks and get it set up on stage. The choir travels with a riser system that's customized for them. That has to be set up on stage. That usually takes us until about lunchtime. We break for lunch, then we come back from lunch and we start doing our audio tuning and our lighting focus so that we're ready for the choir and the orchestra to arrive on stage about 3 o'clock in the afternoon for a sound check. They then break at 5, go to dinner, come back. We do the show, 7:30 or 8 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, it's all going back into the tractor trailers. And usually by 1 or 2 in the morning, we're out of the venue and moving on to the next city. We travel with all of our own audio equipment. because we found it's very difficult to specify the audio equipment that fits our needs. And so we travel with our own consoles, our own microphones, and our own monitoring equipment. The only thing we rent in an arena are the large speakers and amplifiers that fill the room with sound.
Having that same equipment is the only way that we can have some kind of sense of continuity of sound from one venue to the next. And they've talked about this electronic shell that the choir uses. The home of the choir is the Tabernacle, and it has this wonderful domed roof that has this wonderful acoustic sound that goes out to the audience. But what's nice about it too is that the basses can hear what the sopranos are singing because of that feedback of the sound that kind of bounces off of that acoustic shell. But in the venues, we don't have that.
No, we have to create that artificially. And it wasn't until we opened the conference center and learned how to make the choir sound good in the conference center that we were able to replicate that and go on tour in large arenas. Up until 2005, the choir only toured in concert halls and theaters, because we didn't have the technology to be able to recreate that environment in a large space. Singing in an arena is like singing outside. There are no reflective surfaces. You get no feedback from the room as to what do I sound like. And you can be singing and have no idea what the person next to you is singing because it just disappears. And so with our experiences in the conference center, we were able to now recreate that electronic acoustical shell so that the choir can hear each other, they can hear the orchestra and vice versa, and be able to perform as a cohesive whole.
What about for you, Ed? What's a typical day like when the choir's on tour for you?
Well, we get together with the public affairs people that are assigned to the choir and the kind of the digital media team whose responsibility is to do the blogs and the posts. And we kind of talk about early in the morning, what are the opportunities? We've kind of tried to set up some choir members, or maybe it's a radio station, or maybe it's one of the promoters, or maybe it's some of the people in the hall, or people that have bought tickets, you know. And so we establish what our opportunities are, and then we make sure that we're in these opportunities, and we make those to be able to interview them, get good stories, and then we try to get those edited and then sent back to Salt Lake so that it could be then disseminated up to our YouTube sites, the choir sites, or out to the other news agencies that want to do daily reports of how the choir's on tour. And then we start it all over again, because now we have opportunities to film things at the concert that evening with showing the warm-up and the guests that come in and their reaction to the audience and to choir members of how they're enjoying being on tour. So it starts at 7 and it ends at 10 o'clock at night.
Going on tour with the choir for me is probably the most difficult project I work on all year long. But the satisfaction of a job well done at the end, and that all of these people did in fact get to see and hear the choir live, makes it worth it.
Well, and it's like, you know, when you have a great experience, you want to share that. I mean, there's great satisfaction in doing a great ski run, you know, and hitting the great powder. But if you don't have someone there to share it with you, it tends to be kind of hollow, and you'd like to share that with, you know. So that's what it's about with the choir. I mean, we get to see that every week, but there's still weeks in which the choir sings a particular song and makes a particular note. And because of the combination of that, the sonic sound and the message of that song, I still, you know, get those, you know, those goosebumps when the choir makes, you know, sings like that. And that still happens to me after 33 years of producing, you know, choir broadcasts. And that's something we really enjoy, even though it's very hard. The work that we do, we enjoy sharing that to as many people as possible, and it's a real comfort and a real joy for us to see how they respond to the choir when they see them at a tour. That makes all the hard work worth it.